Again, I'm your host, Jen Micklick. Most of you may know me. I am a technical project manager in the sales department, and Charles Min, one of our wonderful data scientists, is joining me today. So what I want to do is just briefly review what we had at our last Tech Tips Live that was not in March. And we'll talk through what we're going to show this week. I'm actually really excited about what Charles is going to show you. So he'll do some demonstrations, and then as always, we'll be looking at the questions and try to answer them for you. Let's go to the next slide. So from review from our last one, we actually had Byron joining us, and it was Byron and Phil, and they reviewed sub-inspections. And as far as setting focus on different items, being able to set sub-inspection colors when you finish one and the other, whether there's errors or not, and going back to the sub-inspection list. And also one of the ones that I thought was very good was being able to repeat a sub-inspection until you were done on something. So there was some Python code on that. So if you missed that, I have the link below. Please go ahead and check it out, or it is on our website as well. You go to our customer resources and Tech Tips Live, it will show you there as well. So I don't have any questions so far. I'd like to talk about what we're going to focus on this month, and which is more of the individual tests. Definitely with Python and in inspections. And today's examples are, we're going to work with a traceability example and a numeric input example. The use cases that Charles has come up with, we decided to do in the food industry. We don't do that very often, so we thought that would be a great use case. So we talked about it, and Charles is going to use a best before date. So like you see on the label, what does it read? Does it need to be a certain format? Is it the correct format? And let's force that correct format into GainSeeker. So he'll show you what that looks like and show you the code behind it. We'll also do, when you're often weighing your product, you have the total weight that comes on the scale. You also have that baggage weight, which is the tare weight. We'll show you how to put the tare weight into the standard and then automatically subtract that from your total weight so you actually have the product weight in there. So couple of really good items. I'm excited for Charles to show you, so I guess I better quit talking and hand it over to Charles. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jen. All right, it is really my pleasure to join you guys for Tech Tips Live once again. I'm sure this may be the first time a number of you may have actually seen my face in person. I've talked to a number of you here, or seen at least on the phone, or conversed with you guys in emails, but now you can put a face to the voice. So hopefully you'll see what's going on. I'm going to share my screen here, and so that way. There's my awesome dog there. So you can see him in the background. One of the things that, I've got a real simple inspection here. Now you'll notice I've only got my date code required. And for now, that's going to be pretty much all that we absolutely need, because here, we're putting in, as Jen said, our best by date. If I put in a date of, let's do today's date, or today's the 21st. I've got some code that says, hey, we want to make sure that this date is in a very specific format. So every time that it's not in the format that I want, hey, it's going to prompt the operator to re-enter the date code format. In this case, I have it such that it is the short month, the day, and the year. Real simple. And then I can move forward. Now you can see I've got my device profile set up for the scale. Oh, That's not what I want to do, but that's okay. And you'll see that I've got a weight on, I'm weighing a 1 pound package of cookies here because we're using our tour database. And so I have put in a value of 18.35, something like that, knowing that that's going to be what my final weight is going to be, 16.84 ounces. And then I can go ahead and submit that, and I'm done. Now, what did I do? Well, for those of you guys in the foods industries, we're looking at, the total package weight here for that part. We're looking at the weight of the product inside the package as well as the package weight. In the industry, they call it's, the empty package is going to be your tare weight or your package weight or empty package weight, your starting tare. So now when we go into everything, I pull up the code behind it, we've got 2 scripts to look at. Our first one, and I will increase the size here, is our date code. Now I'm doing this in our PostScript. By doing it in a PostScript, that gives me the opportunity to stop the user from being able to move on and submitting the sub inspection. That's where I can show my message of, hey, we've got an invalid date code format, please re-enter. I'm going to make sure that I stop the script so that it doesn't continue on. What my code is doing is I've got a list of specific valid date code formats here. Short month, 2-digit day, 4-digit year, with or without spaces. Those are the 2 formats that I have said are okay. And I'm validating the current date, that date code that I've entered in on the inspection, sub-inspection, against either of these 2 formats. And as long as it is not one of those 2 formats, then I stop them from going on. Otherwise, they continue on and they move, and I've got my traceability. Now, one thing, on weights, I'll go ahead and close this, and I'll go and show you the standards for the 16-ounce package weight. Now, here in the package weight standard variable 1 has a value of 1.5. We have said that is going to be the empty package weight, the tare weight that we expected this 1 pound package to have. In order to be able to capture that empty weight into our device profile, the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure that I can actually read in that tare weight. So I've gone and pulled the data by loading the standard from that numeric input, and then getting the standard variable 1. And then I'm using the serial persist command. The serial persist command, if you haven't used it before, it's a dictionary. And in order to be able to say we need to pass information from the main inspection to this device profiles, we have to use that dictionary. They run in separate scopes, and the serial device profile can only run file commands and serial commands. So we'll go ahead and take a look at my device profile. And I apologize that I can't blow this code up a little bit more. But as you can see here, now I've got that tare weight saved, or now I'm saving it within the value of my device profile. I am making sure that it is a valid number first and foremost. So I'm using this try except block to make sure that it is. And if it's not, I'm setting the tare weight to 0, just to make sure that it works. I weigh the product, I get that weight, and that is the net, that's the net weight. And I want to make sure that the product weight is my total weight minus the tare. and that's my result that I return back to my value. I can show that a little bit more in a little bit more detail here, where if I go through, so my tare weight's going to be 0, but you'll see here that, all right, here's my net weight. So I put in 16.77 as my net weight. It's going to subtract my tare weight of 0 and say, have that as my result. Now, if I actually had a tare weight of 1.5, I'd probably be underweight on this package. But I wanted to show you that it's taking it in two steps, and therefore it's breaking. We've got the final product value. That's pretty much all that needs to be done. With the serial persist command, we can take a lot of other values. I've seen this be used for different other different spec limits that may need to be tested. And one thing also that you may notice here in my inspection editor, I've actually got the test ID for each value for each test specified. Here in traceability, you can see that I'm using the actual name of the traceability value that I'm expecting as the test ID. That'll make things a lot easier in the code to reference as opposed to using the default test ID, which is a number. When I look at the code, if this were just a number, that trace, whatever the test ID is associated with the trace test that is saving date code, just by looking at the code, I don't know what that corresponds to, what test that corresponds to. So I always make it a point to make sure that every single test ID that I may potentially be interacting with in code has a test ID number 1. And more importantly, because we can use these Python scripts over and over again, I want to make sure that my test IDs here match what's in my code. You'll see also in my tare weight code, I have a little bit of extra code that I have here. When I undo this, I'll show you what happens when I run it. And I'll do a possible. Now you can see here that I've got my product name as well as the expected tare weight in there. And now I've got my value and I can go and submit. Just a little ways that you can customize how each test looks. So that way it makes it a lot easier for the operator to read and understand what's going on. It gives them a little bit more instruction, a little bit more context, as well as to what they're actually working on. If I just do this, oops, and let me close you. I can do it. I can start over. That looks good. Let me restart that. Now, without the date code or without that label, those labels set up. Thought I'd change that. That's okay. There we go. course, now I put one that's extra low, so there we go.
So yeah, I definitely like it with a little more description in the label, and it seemed like just a couple lines really gave it like a more meaningful label. Speaking about labels, Charles, I did get a question that was sent just to me, talking about the traceability, and when the date code wasn't right, pretty much just came up and said error.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's an easy way to say, please enter date code in this format or this format, right?
Sure. Yeah,
simple.
I just, I kept the message pretty simple, but that message could be, it's a custom message, and you could put in whatever you want there. No need to, as much as you may want to, say something kind of snarky. I know I have a tendency to do that once in a while, but you still want to give good information to your to your operators, to the people you're working with. Give them the information that they need. If the right format is supposed to be, the short month, day, year, spell it out for them so that way they know. Yes, the assumption that I have is that they're copying whatever's on the product that they're testing. That's definitely something to make sure that, with a little bit more information, they can write it down, you can show them, write down what they want. You can add a picture that says, here's the right format, something that gives them that information to say, yes, this is what we're looking for. The more clear it is to your operators, the better it'll be.
So could you open up that example you have and replace where it says error and just kind of show us again where we could?
Yeah, I can do that. Let me switch one more time.
Only we have some extra time here. So
we've got a few extra minutes.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got this going. You can see here this display message. So how do we want to say this? Maybe we want to say invalid date code format, expected format of month, month, day, year. And then that way, something like that.
Perfect. Awesome. And that took like what, 3 seconds to add that in. So that's great there. I do have a question from Andy Eller. Says, can you explain the Python ini function a little better? I haven't seen that one before.
Okay, so this code, I'm breaking it down into 2 parts. The any function takes something that you're testing. In this case, I'm using our validate function from our HSI date library, and I'm checking the current date code variable against DC format, date code formats. Python is awesome when it comes to comprehension. So the second part of this code for DC format in valid date code formats. So you can see that I've got a list of 2 valid date code formats that I'm checking against. The long explanation for this is I'm testing HSI date as HSI date.validate current date code, first date code format. Is that true or false? And then checking against the second date code format. Is that true or false? The any function will check all of those values, and once it returns and if anything is true, it's a true. It is the exact same code if I were to say if not HSI date validate for date code think that's going to be, nope, it's an or here. These two lines of code right here essentially is the exact same thing. But when you're looking at, multiple things that you're testing against, do you really want to have multiple valid, statements that validate that, if not, if this or that, and so on and so forth. Exactly. So that function just takes that list down and applies it all across the board.
Awesome. Thank you, Charles, for explaining that. All right. I don't see that we have any other questions. Charles, is there anything you want to show? Otherwise, I will give some people their much needed time back. Because if it's anything like mine, I've had a super busy week. If you want to go ahead and show the last slide.
Yep. Pulling it up right now.
Awesome. So just so everybody is aware, our next Tech Tips Live is May 19th. And it is I believe it's the last of our Python series, and it's accessing external systems. So that will be definitely fun. I believe Phil is hosting, but you never know between the two of us. And like I had said earlier, a recording of this will be posted by next week sometime. And again, we always appreciate your feedback and ideas for future Tech Tips Live. So with that being said, I thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And again, if you end up using this or have questions, let me know. Let me know it helped you. I would certainly appreciate that. So everybody have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Thank you all. Have a good one.